talk about Epstein. What's a leaving Britain aside because they have scandals like this all the time. What's an antecedent in the United States for something like the Epstein matter? Is there one?
Well, it's worth mentioning that Britain specializes in cover-ups. It's really our
Yeah,
national sport. You thought it
there's
was
there's several going
soccer.
on, several being exposed now.
It's the defining characteristic of British government to try and hush things up. And the most singular example in recent times was the so-called grooming gangs scandal, which uh, people went to enormous lengths to cover up. And I think if Elon Musk hadn't brought it to the fore on X, the cover-up might have succeeded. So I come from the land of the cover-up.
Yeah.
And think of the Cambridge Spies cover-up, which took decades to be blown. The United
And
States,
I'll just say a smaller one, not as impactful as that, but what Boris Johnson tried to do around COVID was also just a shameless attempt to cover something up that was blatant,
well,
right?
the thing about Boris was that he was a kind of one-man scandal,
Yeah,
serial scandals, each one of which required a cover-up until
right.
finally it could be covered up no more. But the interesting thing to go back to Watergate is that Americans are quite hostile to cover-ups, and that means that the allegation of a cover-up has a different salience here. Remember, what brought Nixon down was not the break-in itself; it was the cover-up. And with the Epstein case, there are a couple of things that I think any reasonable person must wonder about. The first is that there really should be, and as far as I knew, was a list of people who Epstein regarded as his clients or intimates. And it's a little strange that that's suddenly not obtainable. And there's also, I think, long been a cloud of mystery around the circumstances of his death, alleged suicide while in custody. So I think there's something fishy here. The Wall Street Journal went for the Trump Epstein relationship. And of course, that really infuriated the president. But one wonders why it infuriated him so much. Lots of people went to Epstein's parties, from the psychologist Steve Pinker through his Harvard colleague Alan Dershowitz to Prince Andrew. And those of us who have a passing familiarity with President Trump's moral life can't be entirely surprised that President Trump hung out somewhat with Epstein. Uh, I'm struggling to think of anything that would really necessitate a cover-up for the president's sake at this point. So there's something funny here. And I think what's important about it, Mark, is that it just strikes a nerve with an important part of his base in a way that nothing previously has. So I have just been reading Sam Tannenhaus's excellent new biography of Bill Buckley, which is like a history of American conservatism going all the way back to the 1930s. And what I learned reading it is that there's long been a part of the American right which is extremely attracted by conspiracy theories, which often spills over into anti-Semitism and other forms of bigotry. Buckley spent a lot of his life trying to get away from his early associations with America First, as well as with the John Birchers, as well as with some anti-Semitic and segregationist elements on the far right. And I sense those old monsters on the periphery resurfacing here. Tucker Carlson's attempting to link Epstein to Mossad as part of his increasingly overt anti-Israel campaign. All of this, I think, is a problem for Trump because it's a real division in his base. And you saw that when Carlson got an ovation at the Turning Point USA conference, trying to make this connection from the Epstein scandal to Israel. So I think it's that subject that President Trump really wants to change because it does seem potentially quite problematic for the base. And even if it's only 5% or maybe 10% of Republican voters who are turned off by this and feel that something really fishy is going on, that could be a problem next year at the midterms for a bunch of House Republican candidates. So that's how I'm thinking about all this. And trying to change the subject when it's as salient as this with your base is hard. saying you're going to sack the Fed chair, which is the default setting when Trump wants to change the subject these days, didn't work. And so we finally get to Obama, which I think was quite a clever strategy, especially since it solicited a reaction. Because Obama mostly tries to keep out of the way, enjoy life on Martha's Vineyard, and all the perquisites of his success in the private sector. So Trump has certainly done a smart thing if the goal is to change the subject, because this is much more likely to succeed than I'm going to sack Jay Powell, which I said last week.
Want more great clips like that? I've got an idea. Hit the subscribe button, be part of the Two-Way community, never miss a clip, and you can always watch our full episodes, join them live, go to twoway.tv.